What's going on, guys, and welcome back to the channel. Today I wanted to make a quick educational video on how I can help you guys get better grades when grading through PSA, CGC, or Beckett, anything like that. So I've got some cards laid out already here and kind of my process on what I do. But before I get into really the process and what I'm looking for, I wanted to show some examples, because that's probably the biggest thing, is examples of what is a PSA 10 all the way down. I've got it all the way down to a 7. Just because when you start looking at these differences, guys, it's so subtle, it's so small. So I'm going to start with the PSA 10. I'm only using PSA for this video just because that's mainly what I have, and really what I'm holding. So I've also got from PSA's website exactly what they're looking for each grade. So we'll go through them as we go through each one. So we'll start with 10s. We'll work all the way. I stopped at 7 because honestly, I don't see, unless it's something, we're talking like vintage sports, anything like that, which would be a whole other video. I kind of stop with a 7. I always grade off of a 7. So let's start with that. We're going to start with a 10 though, and then we're going to work our way back. So a 10 is a virtually perfect card, guys. So this is straight from PSA's website, psa.com/resources/grading standards. You can find all this information. So for a PSA 10, it does not have to be a perfect card. It's virtually perfect. Centering has to be 55 by 45 and not to exceed 60 by 40. So that means that gives you a lot of leeway on your centering, but it needs to be pretty close. Like this is obviously a Charizard. So I'm trying to see if we can find any kind of imperfection. So really what I'm looking for, I always, modern cards, if it's not going to have a 10, if it doesn't have a shot at a 10, I'm not going to submit it. This isn't 2 years ago when everything you could submit is gold. So for example, this one, if you can see, very slight corner neck. I'll move kind of quick on these. Let's see what the Mega Charizard has. So this one, same bottom right. See if I can get it. You can see it right there, small corner neck. So it's just showing that it does not need to be. I actually think this one was like solid. I submitted probably like 40 of these. I don't see anything on this one. So this one, I'd consider a 10. But just because it has a very light corner neck does not mean it's not a 10. It's when you start compounding issues, like centering, corners, anything like that. So there's our 10s. Let's move on to 9s, guys. Let's keep it rolling. All right, so a 9 is a superb condition card that exhibits only one of the following minor flaws. So you get one minor flaw: a very slight wax stain on reverse, a minor printing imperfection, so that would be a print line, or slightly off white borders. So that means you can start getting a little bit more whitening on it and still roll a 9. Unlike if you notice on the 10, there wasn't any minor printing imperfections. So that's where, when you start pulling vintage cards or modern cards and you start seeing print lines, that's when you start pulling 9s, guys. You're not going to get a 10 back with print line. You can get a 10 back with a very light corner neck. For example, this one I submitted, honestly, I thought it actually had a really good chance at a 10. And it had, this sat at PSA forever. And then, but it did have one whitening clean hollow, which, that's why I thought. But really, it's really corner necks. They're the ones that you guys can kind of roll a 10 with. This one actually had another one too. Some of these you don't know what you're getting back from PSA 2, because this was back in the submitting cards so long ago. So this one's clean hollow, and then this one had 1, 2, 3 corner necks, and then this guy had a little bit. Its bottom corners were the rough ones. So start looking at 9s. These non-hollows, I had a non-hollow in each one just because it's a lot easier to get 10s, obviously, because you're not grading off of hollows. You're just grading off of really the backs and the card itself. Because when you look at grading, you've got centering. You're going to have your corners, which, are cuts, anything like that. But I mean, the actual cut itself, you're looking at surface wear too. So there are things that go into it. Now we're starting to roll into 8s. Now 8s, 9s, and 7s, guys, it can get close. It can get super close. I've had 7s that I really thought were close to 9s, and I've had 10s that were 7s. So there's a lot of, I don't know if I call it luck, but there's luck in grading, guys. It really is. All right, so 8, a super high-end card that appears a 9 at first glance, but upon closer inspection, the card can exhibit the following: a very slight wax stain reverse, slight fraying at 1 or 2 corners. Fraying is not like a nick. Fraying is fraying, guys. a minor printing imperfection, and or slight off-white borders. So guys, we start looking at this one. So you could start seeing fraying on this one. Honestly, this 9, I would consider that fraying. So I got a goal bat. Let's see what we start seeing here. This one honestly probably could have gone either way. I would say it's just because it's off center. It's got 2 corner nicks and it's a non-hollow. This one could honestly, it probably could have rolled a 9, but it came back an 8. And then we've got this Magikarp, Shiny Magikarp, and this one. See, for me, like you can see the hollow scratches. I would have not considered this an 8 when I had submitted it. But the back was nice, and this is where you start getting in. 9s and 10s can get close. 9s and 7s can get close. And if you're not following me, guys, it can when you're looking at near mint versus gem mint, they can start getting very close. So, for example, like I said, I would have considered this a 7. Also, this is one of those kind of air Magikarps where the hollow should have been only Magikarp and not the whole card. But that's aside. You can look up all like the errors and stuff, but that's why I kept that one. And then I think these are so all 7s. So 7, pretty clean jump pluff. And then the back, see, you've got 1 nick here, small, so 3. And I'm trying to see if I really see any. You can see a couple print lines, but this is what I'm saying. So this is a 7, guys. And when we start looking at 7s, and 9s, I mean, like the backs on these are almost the same. You've got 3 nicks on each. This hollow I've got one print line going this way. And then this one just has the print line here. So tell me, the difference between these cards, guys. And this is why I'd like to show you guys the difference. This one, you can see this is a 7 to me, because you can see the hollow scratching very well. I didn't read you guys what 7s even were. Might be. I jump around a lot. So slight surface wear visible upon close inspection. There may be slight fraying on corners, so now you're getting visible wear, which obviously this one is visible with all of the hollow scratching. Minor printing blemish, a little bit of stain, and then most of the original gloss. So this is kind of leaning a little bit towards when you're looking at sports cards. And then this one also had, which I didn't notice. Honestly, it was probably, some stuff happens there. It's kind of like a dent. So some stuff does get past them. I would say, without that dent, that this would be a 7. So good 7 here. And then Blastoise. If you guys can spot the error on this Blastoise, drop it in the comments. There's a reason why I kept this one. Not all of these. Some of these are in my force sale bin, but this one is not. I pulled this one out. So tell me what the error is, guys. But let's see. Yeah, I would say this one actually has print lines going across the back. So you've got the back is actually pretty solid. It's got a couple whitening spots. It's really just the hollows, or the hollow on this one. It's fairly scratched up. So you guys can kind of see the differences, how subtle they could be. Okay, so when I go through grading and when I sit down and really price things out, I kind of split it into 2 categories, guys. I do modern and I do vintage. When I go for vintage, I price everything out at a PSA 7, even if it's a clean card. You want to look, at 8, 9s, 10s, obviously. I almost never price a vintage card out at a 10 because the odds are just very low. And I even pack fresh, guys. You guys can open up a pack of, heavy, we'll say base, and you can still get a 7, guys. It's just part of it. So I price it a 7, and that's where I build in my profit. So anything after that is, is kind of free money at that point. And really it's just because the differences between a 7, especially when you compare like the Jump Pluff and the Venusaur, is it's so small. It's just the grader that day. 100% is the key. So modern, I'm going for 10s and 10s only, which I think I said earlier. If I have any doubt that it's not a 10, then I'm not going to send it, which, like I said, could be really subtle. So for example, I didn't send in this Rockets Mewtwo, which is absolutely beautiful. It's a perfect hollow, but the back had some print lines. It had a little scratch on this side, which are really hard to see. But if you look at it closely, it's close, guys. But really, it might go an 8, which, $20 plus $50. I paid $20 for this, plus $50 for grading. We're looking at 70 bucks. This card as a PSA 8 is pushing, I think, right around the same price. So this will go into a bulk pile in the future. Just because, you know, when bulk comes back down for grading, I'll submit it. So you got to look at it this way. And then, so I've got all of these were purchased to get graded, and I'll go through them really, well, this one wasn't. Really quickly, so you guys can kind of see some of the stuff I look for, and then how I clean them and submit them. So this is kind of like a 2-part video. So this, the Dungeons Dice Monster, I think these cards are super cool, which I talked about in my last video. So I got this because I wanted to get this graded, and I still might open it. We'll see on this one, just because it was one of these cards. Yeah, so you can see there's 2 in the pack, and this corner right there. So you can see it with my finger right there. It's a little dog-eared at the bottom, and I couldn't get them separated to really see. But if a card is in a package, you know, move the card around. So like, for example, my biggest one that I submit a lot is Shadowless Machamps, which, you know, I'm shifting it around because are the print lines on the wrapper. So you want to kind of see, be careful with the card, but you want to see where the print line's running. I want to move it around as, you know, subtle as I can to try to shift around to see for lining and things like that, which still can be hard because I had this guy or this girl, this chocolate dark magician girl or chocolate magician girl in the sleeve. It did look fine. I thought the print lines were on the wrapper because it came in a wrapper too. And then when I pulled it out, you can see it hit them. So you can see those print lines. Otherwise, it was flawless, and I would have submitted it, but now I will not submit. This beautiful Charizard. It's hard to tell in person, but you can see it's got the 2 at the top. This will go in a bulk pile just for the future, which were just from the 10 that it came in back in the day. And then we start getting in some really cool. I love these cards, guys. This is Super Dragon Ball Hero. So you guys here are actually kind of getting to see some Yu-Gi-Oh, and then some Pokemon. So, and then obviously this one. They're Japanese, so of course they're gonna do well. You can kind of see it's, you know, a little bit perfect, but then you start flipping on the back and it had 1 white nick. So hey, I mean, it's an expensive card, and it's still a near mint card. It's a pack fresh card, but it's not for me. It has a chance of going to a 10. It really did. This one had a scratch. But it's just, when you're looking at where the market is now, guys, you really need to be careful on modern cards, because 9 is equivalent to raw. It really is. So don't submit it if you think it's going to get a 9, unless it's your personal collection card and you want to get it encapsulated. But if you do personal, I would always go with bulk, guys. Wait, if you're not looking to flip it. I'm not going to go through all of these Dark Magician girls, but this one had a scratch. Oh, this one came bent. You can see it. That's when you order from Japan, guys, you never know what you're going to get. You never know what you're going to get. I figure, I mean, you're going to have to trial by error on Japanese cards for who exactly you want. And then you're going to start getting good stuff, and then you're going to keep going to that seller. But, you know, there's some issues with sellers. This one, I can't remember why I didn't submit this one. It's in my non-submit pile. The front was good. It has a scratch right there. So but that's how subtle. This is 1 scratch, guys. Flawless card. Still would grade a 9. Like, these would all, besides the damaged one, these would still grade 9s, guys. But to me, none of it's worth submitting. So now let's do a quick show of exactly what I do. So we have our sleeves. So I always transfer sleeves. So if it comes in a sleeve, I just put it in my own sleeve. It's just habit. Because a lot of people use fitted sleeves, or, you know, whatever works for them. And this might not work for you. We got that. So the best thing to do is get the brightest light you guys can. I actually turned mine off for this video. I usually have a really bright light on this. So extremely bright light, you want it to come basically right over the card. So then you can see let me actually. All right. So now it's about to get really bright. This is usually a side light I have on for the videos anyways. But usually, like, when I go for grading, I put one right over, so you can see this light coming down, so you can see everything. But you want to put it at the brightest angle light, hit it from all of the angles, because you never know what's going to pop up. And that's the only way, because, like, before when I was showing you guys, you don't see the stuff that you're going to see under bright light, and that's exactly what graders are looking at. So, right, so you're like, all right, so I noticed this little scratch. This is why. See, I couldn't even see it without this light on. There's a small little dent right there. Very, very subtle. But this is the stuff when people get stuff back and they're like, I don't know why I didn't. You got a 9. It's a pack fresh does not mean gem mint. It's not. Like, this is a near mint card. But then you start seeing this stuff. So take the time before you submit and waste your money or spend your money to look for things like that. Okay, because that's going to pop up under this bright light. So get a bright light, hit it from all the angles, multiple angles, catch everything. And if you start seeing stuff, if I'm on the fence with the card, I just don't submit it. Because at the end of the day, like, do I want to submit the card and come back at 9 and then you're just selling a raw? So you're basically taking, a loss, or are you hoping? Take hope out of the equation, guys. All right. So usually for cleaning, just because, people touch these, especially when you buy them online, I get a Q-tip and always follow it. So, you'll clean it, especially areas that have been touched, just to get all the oils, because PSA is not there to clean your cards, guys. If there's a fingerprint on there, they're just going to ding it from you, and then they're going to go on with their day, because it's not their job to clean it and they shouldn't have to. So, all right. So we've got this side. If I would have done the front, and then I'm going to sleeve up to the halfway where I stopped, and then I'm going to rotate, and I'm going to do the exact same way. And if you need to put actual pressure, lay it down, put light pressure on the opposite side, and then just go around with it. Clean it. I'm obviously not going to do a perfect clean. And then, so you've got a clean card, corners, edges. Same with the front. Be careful about going over hollows, especially with this, because you can scratch it, guys. But cards, like, for example, these ones, they show fingerprints so easy. Like right there. Let's see if it'll show for you guys. Probably not, but just how this card is, it's a perfect fingerprint. And literally, like, just a Q-tip, we'll pull that right off. And then now the big question is, people are like, what do you clean with? I don't clean with anything. I would just try to wipe it. If there's something on there, you can wet your finger a little bit. Never ever get liquid anything around the edges. The edges, then it's just going to go underneath it, in between it, and then it's going to bubble the edges. I've done it. Everybody's done it. Just don't get anywhere near it. Some people, take a little spit to put it on there and then wipe it down. Like, you can do what you need to. I don't recommend anything that makes a droplet. Stay away from, guys, 100%. So then you got your card saver. Boom, slide it in, put it in, good to go. Only shipping card savers, that's at PSA, and that's the only thing they really accept. But that's really it, guys. Just do yourself a favor. Always price off of 7s. You'll be okay for near mint cards. Modern, any doubts, don't submit. Just go with those things. Do the subtle things that I'm showing you, or I've showed you guys. Let's move that really bright light out of the way. How you can clean cards and how you can submit cards. And the best thing to do too is, if you couldn't really see these examples, just look up examples. Go to eBay, and then look at cards with the back photos, and just start scrolling around. Be like, well, that's a 9. Once you get used to it and you start seeing these cards over and over, and after you've submitted, you're gonna get the hang of it. It's just the initial at the beginning. People submit cards, they pull a Charizard straight out of a pack and submit it, and it's probably a 9. And it's just how it is. Not everything deserves a 10, and that's why 10s hold premiums. But hey, if you have any questions on this, hit me up on Instagram. Obviously, we're here on YouTube. So hit me up. I can answer any questions. I've been grading for years now for thousands of cards, and this is what I've seen, and I hope it helps you guys. But hey, good luck out there.